Coming into the HYROX World Championships, I had one goal. That was to win. This is my third year competing at the Elite 15 HYROX World Championships. And in the past, I've been pretty conservative, and that got me decent results over the course of my career as a HYROX athlete. But I knew in order to close that gap between me who's been in the middle and the guys at the top, it's going to come down to the preparation, and mostly in around that first run. So that was an area that I put a major emphasis on in training. So during that first run, I knew I had to remain in contact. In races in the past, there would be just a massive gap between me and the top athletes within the first 15, 20 seconds on one run. So I knew I was just couldn't have that happen. So I put in a lot of dedicated work in training so that I could feel like I could hold on and maintain that run. Another area I put a massive focus on was my nutrition and my sports supplementation. I had that dialed in and locked in as much as I ever have in the past. So body composition wise, fueling wise, and all the other supplements that I take around the actual event and training. I felt like I did a better job with this than I had ever done before. And thanks to a couple of awesome partnerships and just with some knowledge that I've been able to gain over the past several months, my nutrition has been as locked in as it has ever been. So that's one thing I can just check off. And all the training that came around with the HYROX World Championships, I felt like I could execute a plan that could get me to that top spot on the podium. So in that first run, I maintained contact. I just said I was going to go with them. So I did. And my running was really, really fast. In some of my previous workouts that I've done, it's the fastest that I've seen in a long time. So I knew I could hold with them. And as we were going, I knew it was fast, but it felt comfortable. It was a run that I could hold for a long time. But this is already uncharted waters for me because I'm usually conservative. I take it easy on that first run. So being with that top group and running so fast right from the jump was a newer tactic for me and one that I did on purpose. Then coming into the ski erg, I ski about 148 and was just able to kind of hold and maintain that. So I came out of the ski, I think in 5th or 6th place while coming in about 4th. So I only lost a spot or two, but the gap closed between myself and the athletes right behind me because I was being conservative on that run. I didn't want to go too hard so that I was going to just run out of juice completely, just be hanging on for dear life. But I knew I wanted to make a major move on the sled push. There's a lot of time that can be made up there. So I'm training really hard, put a lot of focus, hitting it from all sorts of different angles. And I felt like I could just put out on it. So I got there and I just hammered. The goal was to get 2 lengths unbroken and then a break, then 2 breaks. And I was able to execute that really well. And I think my total time was 1:57, which was the fastest of the day for any of the elite athletes in this race. And it moved me from 8th place into 3rd and with some cushion. So it worked. And that was the goal. I wanted to be able to close that gap between the top guys and myself. And immediately I'm in the mix. And my plan was going exactly how I wrote it out, and what was happening in front of me and around me was also exactly what I was hoping would happen. The athletes who happened to be in front of me were Tim and Hunter, and in the past couple of races, they've had a hard time closing the race down. And I felt like if I could be close, keep my running in check, and then after big broad jumps, be able to run and close really hard, that I have a shot. So right now I'm in the mix and I'm thinking that this is going well. I took my foot off the pedal in the next run as well because the sled pull is another huge place to make up a lot of time. And I put in a ton of work. Like I said about my running on the sleds, I put in a ton of work of everything. So when I got to the sled pull, I came in about 5th because 2 athletes did catch me after coming out of the push. But I immediately passed them back, had the second fastest sled pull of the day around 3:20, and wound up leaving in 3rd place again. And I felt it. I felt like it was a hard effort, and that the sled pull did take a bit more energy. So it could have been the combination of hard sled pull, hard sled push, hard fast first run, but I was hanging in there. And the goal was, again, just gather myself to come into burpee broad jumps, which I did, and I came in 4th place. So I was in a spot where I felt like I was still in contention. And burpee broad jumps, this is where the fatigue started to settle in, and this is where the fatigue will settle in if pacing is inappropriate in a HYROX event. And the first length or two I had some pop, I had some good jumps, and then everything started to kind of slow down. The judging has just become increasingly strict And, you know, for a good reason. I mean, like, we want to be up to the standard, but it's like getting to the point where it's hard to know what we are doing at the standard and like where the 30 centimeters is between my eyes and the judge's eyes and every other judge's eyes. Like, are we all following the same standard? But the standard's written a certain way, but like, is everybody following it the same based off of their judge? What they see, what we see is just like subjective. So like, I had to kind of slow down a couple times because of the standard. I wasn't meeting the standard. Then like the energy started to like really kind of wane in me. This was a place where I wanted to run hard. I've been running really hard off of appropriate broad jumps in training. So I felt like I could put out after this. And so I was still like optimistic, and it came out, my run was actually pretty good. It was the best run since the first run after appropriate broad jumps. I just lost some time and came out of there in about 6th place. So I lost 2 spots from there. And coming into row is where I knew I just needed to like hang on. This is where I do try to take some time to recover. If I can sit around 150, I can get out and run really well after that. So that was the goal, and that's what I hit. And I came out, didn't lose any position, and was able to run really well. And then I had my best run of the day after that. And so then coming in the farmers, I came in tied with 5th place and was feeling like tired, but optimistic that I still had some juice left. So I picked up the kettlebells. We didn't have the same chalk that we would typically have, where it's like it's powdery chalk. We had rosin bags, which just don't provide the same type of coverage in the same type of fashion. So I didn't think of it at the time, but in the second lap, I could feel that it was like slipping out of my hand because of like wetness. And it's a combination of strength, right? Like if I was strong enough, the moisture on my hands wouldn't have mattered as much. But I just, in that moment, like with the fatigue and just like where my strengths and weaknesses are, I just didn't have it, and I dropped it. And then I dropped it again. So I went from 5th place to 10th place in like an instant. And this is where I had to kind of buckle down and say like, okay, like, what are we doing? Like, what are we out here to do? And I knew in those moments that I had to now fight for the position that I had and to run the race that I was in. And in those moments, I felt proud because I just got wrecked on the farmer's carry, but I was still running hard. And I was in races in the past, like if things the wheels kind of start to fall off, like the mental game kind of falls as well. But that didn't happen to me in this event. I said like, let's keep running, let's keep going hard. You still have the ability to do well here. One thing I was saying in my head, like I worked really hard on walking lunges. I want to see what I can do. I might not be able to get the position and finish in the place that I'm going to. Ultimately, the one goal was for me in this race. But I have the ability to now be proud of myself from the effort that I put in the race and from the effort that I put in training. So these are the words that are in my head now. And a mantra that I will go to every now and then is to do your best and do my best. Just like telling myself to do your best. Those kind of words started to come into play at this point where I wasn't in the position that I wanted to be, but I still had the opportunity to do something that I was happy about and what I would be proud of after the fact. So coming into walking lunges, I think maybe it was 9th. I think I did gain a spot after that run. So again, I didn't quit. I kept pushing forward. And then the lunges have just been an area that have just been slow for me. I think my cadence is slow. And then at that point in the race, when fatigue can be really high, it just kind of compounds. And I'm just like not that good at lunges. And it ended up being almost the exact same split that I've had the past several races, which ultimately gets me buried. So I lost some ground here on the competition. I probably 15 seconds from anybody who's like around me, and it kind of put me in no man's land. Then coming into wall balls, but same kind of thing, right? Like I've done a lot of work in wall balls. I feel like I can go fast and I could do well in these. So just coming into that last and final station, I just wanted to put in a good solid effort. The motivation I think does matter in wall balls, whether how many times we're going to break or not. So when motivation was a bit lower because I was in 10th place or whatever I was in, I dropped the ball a couple more times than I want. I still left with a decent split, but dropping that ball is, always going to stack time up more than that I want it to. And ultimately I finished in a time of like 57.0, 57.01, 57.02 or something like that. In the grand scheme of things, that is my 3rd best time ever, right? And it was a race that I fell apart almost completely. I fell apart a lot more than I would have liked to. And to still run that kind of time means I did hold it together pretty well. And in these periods, I'm like now reflecting on how I feel about the race. Like I feel fine about it. Like I don't feel like I was able to execute the way that I anticipated, but I tried. I tried to execute what I thought was possible. And the result, wasn't what I was hoping for, and the plan, the execution of the plan didn't lead to that top spot like I was hoping it would. But at least now I know. How my current fitness and my previous training, where that could get me. And there's also something to say about having a race plan and having a different style of racing. And that takes reps. And to try to roll something out at the World Championships, like whenever I try something new, it's always a risk. But to do it at World Championships is like an extra risk, but it had to happen. I didn't go there to get third. I didn't go there to get fifth. I went there to win. And I still think my fitness is capable of that. I don't think anybody on that course was head and shoulders above my fitness level. I just didn't have the reps to try to refine and figure out where the weak points are in this plan. And that's like the next step, is taking what I've learned from this newer strategy, and the next step in the evolution for myself as a HYROX athlete is figuring out how to do it from the front, is figuring out how to put myself in the race and being able to race the athletes I'm around, as opposed to going out slow, waiting for everyone to die and then just passing them, right? Not really having any type of engagement in a race. And that's who I want to be as an athlete. I want to be someone who can step up and race hard when push comes to shove, because I train hard and I feel like I can. And when it comes down to being competitive, I feel like that's something that I have in me and I've always had in me. So I want to be able to race that way, but being able to do so is going to take prep and practice. And I rolled it out at the most risky time to do so. And what I got was the result I got. And I went after it. So I have no regrets in doing that. And now it's just taking the information that I have and being able to figure out what's next in terms of like the racing for me. So the 2024-2025 season was a bit of a fairy tale season for me. I didn't even think I was going to be at this race. I didn't think the Elite 15 was even going to be something that I could compete for anymore based off of how the 23-24 season went. And I didn't think that it was going to end at the World Championships for the Elite race. So having it end that way is a win for me, but I'm ultimately not satisfied with that. And I think I do have more juice left to squeeze. So we're going to keep pushing forward, and hopefully we'll get back there for the 25-26 season. We'll talk to you soon.